this video, we are going to see how to use Fetch API to call a JSON API endpoint, which will give us this result, and how to use Fetch API to display this data on our web page without even refreshing with the help of Ajax, which is asynchronous JavaScript. So let's get started. We will create a simple HTML page, and it will have contain a table and two buttons. On the press of a single button, which is load data, it will show us all this data in a structured format, which we are going to create. Before moving to that, I will show you how we will display our data. So suppose this canvas is our web page. In the middle of it, it will contain a table. Like this is our table, and it will have two columns. The first one will be title, and the second one will be body. Based on these two parameters, first one is title, second one is body, and it will have different rows based on all these data. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll open my VS Code editor, and I will create a new folder for this project. I will go to my temp directory and I will create a new folder. I'll call it demo. Inside demo, I'll select the folder, and once it pops up, I will create a new index file. This is going to be a very short project, so we do not need a complete folder structure and everything. We just need a single HTML file. That's it. So I'm not going to type all the HTML5 boilerplate template. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Bootstrap documentation, and I'm going to paste the boilerplate code here. Set my indentation to spaces with size of 2. Save it and remove all the extra code which we do not need. All right, and I will create a container as well. Div.container. This is a shorthand in VS Code which I used when you type HTML tag name with a dot, and then after the dot you type the class name. It will create that element with that particular class which have you specified. So inside container, we will have our code. First, we will have two buttons here. Button, and this button will have the text of load data, and the second one is going to have clear data to clear all the data in our table. This button is going to have class, Bootstrap class, btn primary, and the other button is going to have class btn danger, so that we can have it in different color. It should be btn danger. All right, so let's check how our page looks. What most of the teachers do is they go to this particular path. For example, they copy the path from here, and they paste it in their web browser and go to this page. What I do instead is, since I'm a Python developer, I'm not much of a front-end developer, I'm a back-end developer and more into data science and stuff. I create APIs. So what I do is I have Python installed in my system, and Python 3 comes with a package called HTTP, which provides an functionality for creating a server. So I'm going to use that, and you can use that too as well. I'm write python -m http .server, hit enter, and my server has been started on the port 8000. So I'm gonna write here localhost with the port 8000, hit enter, and we will see the same result. So we have this HTML body, but it does not look good. I need a little bit of padding here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to add style and padding, and it should be around 40 pixels. I guess 40 pixels would be fine. Let's see it. Yeah, it looks good. And after our container, after our buttons, we are going to have, let's put buttons in a div as well. All right, and then we're gonna have a table inside a div, and not going to write the whole code for table. I am going to bootstrap documentation and then content tables. The first table looks fine. I'll go there and I will paste it here. Simple. So I do not need 4 columns, as I have already told in this diagram. I need only 2 columns, which is for title and for body. Last 2 columns I'm going to remove. This one will contain our title, and the second one will contain our body. Done. Now inside the body we have tr and stuff. I'm going to remove all of it because we are going to populate tbody tag with the help of JavaScript. So to fetch the tbody from our JavaScript, I'm gonna give this an ID. Without wasting any time to think about a descriptive ID name, I will just simply call it tbody because this project is just for demonstration. I'm not gonna use this anywhere else. I'm going to create another script tag for my own script, and before that I'm going to use jQuery CDN. As I've told you, I'm not going to use the jQuery's $.ajax function. I'm going to use the vanilla JavaScript's fetch API. Fetch API is a little bit similar to Ajax. You can search it about it. You can search it on Google and it will show you beautifully written documentations, some Stack Overflow answers on how is it different than fetch. This one this answer I have read when I was reading about it, and it's quite descriptive, so it helped me understanding the situation, understanding the differences between fetch and Ajax, and why I should use fetch now. However, I do not propagate that you should only use vanilla JavaScript. I use a little bit of jQuery myself because jQuery reduces the amount of code that you have to write, and also I am an old developer, so when I started I used a lot of jQuery. Like every single bit of JavaScript I wrote in a jQuery, so my hands are set on jQuery and I do not do much of a front end, so I do not feel any need to learn all of vanilla JavaScript with ES6 syntax and new syntax of JavaScript. So but I do not advise it to you. I would advise that you should learn the EX6 syntax of JavaScript and also use a little bit of jQuery because it makes things simpler. All right, so without further ado, I'm gonna go to jQuery CDN, open it, and it's loading. I guess there is some issue here because my internet is working fine. All right, I will use some other CDN. So I am going to use jQuery slim.js. Why I am using slim instead of uncompressed or minified? Because slim has all the necessary features, but it does not have advanced features like Ajax function, Ajax method, which we do not need at all because we are going to use the fetch API. But slim will have all the features necessary for DOM manipulation and fetching our HTML object and doing some changes like loading dynamic data and all. We will paste it here in our script. Copy script tag. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's see if it has pasted it successfully. Yeah, okay, it looks fine. Okay. All right, so let's see if our jQuery is working or not. For that, I will fetch the ID. I will write the ID here, which is tbody dot html, and I will write just a random JavaScript code, a random HTML code. I will write something like demo. Let's see if it is working. All right, so our jQuery is loaded and all the necessary libraries are loaded. Without any further ado, let's get to the main code. So we are going to use fetch API. And when are we going to use fetch API? On the click of this button, which is load data. So for that, we will write here on click, and we will write our function name, which is load underscore data. And we are going to create this function here. I'm going to use the old syntax instead of arrow function. And here I'm going to write the code for load data, and it should be nothing but fetch. Inside fetch, the first argument will be the URL, the REST API endpoint, which is this. And don't worry about it, I'm going to give this REST API endpoint, which is a demo REST API endpoint created for testing purposes, and I'm going to give this link in the description. All right, so inside fetch API, it's a little different than Ajax, but there are quite a lot of similarities. The similarities are in the parameters. So in fetch API, you do not have a different parameter for URL. URL is the first argument itself here. The second argument is the header tag or the method, or the header tag method and all the other different stuff which you specify, like the data type and other stuff. All right, so I'm not gonna change any it to a specific method. I'm going to simply go with the get method. So for get method, we do not need to specify a different method name or specify it in this object, which we pass as the second argument. So I will show you how you do that. If we were to use post method, then we have to write method colon post here, similar as we did in jQuery's Ajax method, and comma, and after that you gonna type your headers similar way, JavaScript object, and inside that you're gonna write content type or accept or whatever you want to send. But we do not need any of this because this is going to be a very simple get request. All right, so after that fetch function, we're gonna type then. Inside then, it will collect our data and we will save it in the variable called res, short for response. And we're gonna take the JSON from the res, which should be like this, and after that we're gonna call then again, and inside this then we will create a function where we will pass response, and inside that the function body will have our main code. So what we are going to do is, once we click on load data, it should create a table for us here, and it will have all the information with title and body. So what we will do, I will create a string variable str underscore body. I will initialize it with empty quotes. After that, I will run a for loop on res object for each. remove the array, and here I'm gonna write R for a single entity on this array, which is for example for this, and then for this. Here I'm going to write str body. I'm going to append it with the help of plus equal to operator, and here I am instead of the normal string, I'm going to use the formatted string with the help of backticks. Why I'm using it is because if I were to use the normal string, for example, then in normal string, the problem is, suppose I write like the quick brown fox jumps over a lazy dog. The quick brown fox jumps over and then the name of the dog comes from a variable, say dog name. So I had to write the quick brown fox jumps over a lazy dog plus the variable name, which is dog name, dog underscore name. And suppose if there is some more sentence after that, so I'm gonna append one more string and I'm gonna write some other sentence. So it makes our code complex. So what formatted string does is, with the help of backticks, I can write this same line here, and without breaking a single without breaking it, I can remove this end quotes and plus, and I can simply type this variable here with the help of this syntax, and it will create it will fetch the variable name and it will complete the string. So it makes our code pretty simple. So I'm going to use that. All right, so here we will have our HTML code of the table body. All right, so first we are going to have is a tr, and in the next line we will end our tr. Here we will have our td, which is table data. Oops. And in td we will have our title and our body. So as I've told you about the syntax, it's r square brackets title, copy it to a new line, it will have body. All right, for each str body, and this str body we are going to pass it in our t body with the help of a jQuery method called HTML, which I had shown you earlier. So we will get that id t body here dot html, and inside that I will pass str underscore body. I'll save it. Everything looks fine. I'm going to refresh it, and I'm going to click on this load data to test it in 3 2 1. Let's go. And it worked. It worked fine. So the next functionality is, once I click this clear data button, it should remove everything from our body, from our table body, which is quite simple. This function is even more simpler than the previous function, because we are not going to use any fancy fetch API or any stuff. We are simply going to use a jQuery method, which is same as we used before. Let's define our function. Below it we will write function, function name, function body, and we will paste it. And here we will pass nothing but two empty quotes, an empty string. I'll save it. Everything looks fine. Let's refresh. First load data. Data is loaded successfully. Now once I click on clear data, it should remove all the data. Let's check this functionality in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Yeah, it's working fine. So with that, I am going to stop this video, and if you have any doubts, you can post it in the comments, and don't forget to like and share it. And if you want to comment about any error in the code, you can also comment it on my comment section. And that's it for now. See you in the next video later.